projected #1 overall pick, AJ Dybantsa just said something that shocked the basketball world. He openly suggested that he might skip the NBA draft and return to college at Brigham Young University, BYU, for another season. And according to him, this isn't a joke or some throwaway comment. It's something he's actually considering. When asked about his future, Dybantsa gave an answer that immediately caught everyone's attention. "I might not leave," he said. "I might not leave college. My mom wants me to graduate. So yeah, I might stay." Then he added something even more surprising. Fans have apparently been getting into his head about the idea of returning for another year. "People keep saying 1 more year," he explained. "Maybe 3 more years." Now, realistically speaking, staying 3 more years isn't likely for a player projected to go at the very top of the draft. But even 1 extra season in college would be a massive shock to the entire basketball world. If Dybantsa actually returned to BYU instead of declaring for the NBA, it could easily become one of the most surprising decisions in modern NBA draft history. But here's the thing. At some point, this type of decision is bound to happen. College basketball has completely changed because of NIL, name, image, and likeness deals. These agreements allow players to earn huge amounts of money while still playing in college. For elite prospects, the financial gap between college and the NBA rookie scale is no longer as dramatic as it used to be. In some cases, players can earn millions before ever stepping onto an NBA court. Because of that, the incentives are shifting. For the first time in decades, the majority of the projected first-round picks are expected to come directly from American colleges rather than international leagues or development programs. It's not because international talent suddenly disappeared. Instead, many top American prospects are choosing to stay in college longer to capitalize on NIL opportunities, build their brands, and enjoy the college experience before turning professional. And eventually, one of those top prospects will shock everyone by choosing college over the NBA, at least temporarily. So why not AJ Dybantsa? But before jumping to conclusions, it's worth asking a bigger question. Why would a projected #1 pick even say something like this publicly? Interestingly, this isn't the first time we've heard comments like this from a top prospect. Last year, another elite player, Cooper Flagg, said something very similar while playing at Duke University. During an interview, Flagg talked about how much he loved college basketball and mentioned that he would enjoy returning for another season to chase a national championship. Statements like that created a lot of buzz at the time, with fans wondering if he might actually stay in school instead of heading straight to the NBA. Of course, in the end, Flagg did exactly what everyone expected. He declared for the draft and began his professional career. But that still leaves the same question. Why would elite prospects even float the idea of staying in college when the NBA is waiting? There are actually a couple of important reasons behind it. And in today's new era of college basketball, those reasons might be stronger than ever. After discussing the financial side of things, there is another important factor that could influence AJ Dybantsa's decision about entering the NBA draft: where he might actually get drafted. This is something fans don't always think about, but for elite prospects, the destination matters almost as much as the money. A player's career trajectory can change dramatically depending on which franchise selects them. Look at the example of Victor Wembanyama. When he entered the league, he landed with the San Antonio Spurs, one of the most respected organizations in basketball. The Spurs have a long history of building around superstars the right way. Because of that stability, Wembanyama could focus on developing his game while the team carefully constructed a roster around him. That kind of situation is every young star's dream, but not every player is that lucky. Sometimes players get drafted by struggling franchises that stay stuck in rebuilding mode for years. And because of the way NBA contracts work, those players can end up tied to that organization for a very long time. Rookie contracts, restricted free agency, and extensions often mean a young star could spend 7 years or more with the same franchise before having real control over where they play. That's a huge commitment, especially if the team isn't winning. A classic example of this situation is Kevin Garnett. Garnett spent the prime of his career with the Minnesota Timberwolves, putting up incredible numbers year after year. Despite his dominance, the Timberwolves struggled to build a championship contender around him. In fact, during Garnett's prime, Minnesota was eliminated in the first round of the playoffs 7 straight times. The one breakthrough came during the 2003-04 season when Garnett won MVP and the Timberwolves finally reached the Western Conference Finals. But even that run ended in disappointment when they lost to the Los Angeles Lakers led by Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. After that season, things quickly fell apart again. Shockingly, the Timberwolves missed the playoffs 3 straight years while still having the reigning MVP on their roster. Eventually, Garnett had enough. At age 30, he was traded to the Boston Celtics. What happened next was immediate. In his very first season in Boston, Garnett helped lead the Celtics to an NBA championship alongside Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. Years later, Garnett admitted that one of his biggest regrets was not getting to Boston sooner. That story highlights why draft position, and more importantly, draft destination, can shape an entire career. Now look at the teams most likely to land the number 1 pick this year. As things currently stand, the franchises with the best odds include the Sacramento Kings, Brooklyn Nets, and the Indiana Pacers. Other teams like the Washington Wizards, Utah Jazz, Atlanta Hawks, Dallas Mavericks, and Memphis Grizzlies could also find themselves near the top of the lottery, depending on how the season ends. But if you are AJ Dybantsa, one particular destination might make you pause. Imagine the Sacramento Kings winning the lottery. That franchise has been widely criticized for years due to instability, questionable decisions, and a long history of draft mistakes. In fact, Sacramento has missed the playoffs 19 times in the last 20 seasons, an astonishing stretch of futility in a league designed to help struggling teams improve. And unfortunately, the draft hasn't been kind to them either. Over the years, the Kings have passed on some legendary talents. In 2011, they selected Jimmer Fredette with the 10th pick, while Klay Thompson was taken immediately after at 11. In 2012, they drafted Thomas Robinson at number 5, while Damian Lillard went 6th. Perhaps the most infamous decision came in 2018, when Sacramento selected Marvin Bagley III with the 2nd overall pick, while Luka Doncic was still available at number 3. And those aren't the only examples. The Kings also passed on superstars like Stephen Curry, Kawhi Leonard, and Devin Booker in previous drafts. Over time, these missed opportunities have contributed to the perception that Sacramento simply struggles to build a winning roster through the draft. Ownership instability has also played a role. Team owner Vivek Ranadive has been heavily involved in basketball decisions since purchasing the franchise in 2013. During that time, the organization has gone through multiple front offices and a long list of head coaches, creating an environment that many analysts describe as chaotic. Even recent roster moves have raised eyebrows around the league. At one point, reports suggested that ownership pushed aggressively to acquire DeMar DeRozan, leading to a deal that sent future assets away while committing significant salary. Not long after, the team reportedly pursued another major move involving Zach LaVine, despite concerns within the front office about his contract and injury history. When plans like that fail, the consequences often fall on management. In fact, Sacramento once dismissed a general manager just 2 seasons after he had won NBA Executive of the Year, illustrating just how unstable the leadership structure has been. For a young superstar entering the league, that kind of environment can be intimidating. No matter how talented a player is, success in the NBA usually requires strong organizational support, competent coaching, smart roster building, and long-term vision. Without those elements, even elite players can find themselves stuck on teams that never reach their potential. This brings us back to AJ Dybantsa. If he truly believes that waiting 1 more year could improve his situation, either financially or in terms of where he might get drafted, it's not crazy to imagine him considering that option. By staying another season at Brigham Young University, he could continue developing his game, expand his NIL earnings, and potentially enter a different draft class with a clearer path to the number 1 pick. Of course, there are risks to that strategy as well. Injuries, performance declines, or unexpected breakout players could change everything. But in today's NIL era, the decision isn't as simple as it used to be. Most likely, Dybantsa will still declare for the NBA draft like nearly every top prospect before him. That has been the standard path for decades. Still, the landscape of basketball is evolving. College athletes now have the financial power and personal flexibility to make choices that were almost unthinkable in the past. Sooner or later, one elite prospect will shock the basketball world by turning down the NBA, at least temporarily, to return to school. And when that day comes, everyone will remember the moment the idea first started gaining real traction. Maybe that moment is happening right now.